The Fall of Creation Part 1 by J. Philip Guinness. How, you may ask, could the creator of everything lose everything so easily, even though he had the great advantage of prescience? Why, it's the same old tale as ever. See, after Bastet kicked her head back, and roared out across the expanse of the wilds beyond, her proclamation that the child prince not be harmed, the child left the oasis into the desert, and off across the plains. For although her power was great, Bastet did not have dominion over her husband, Sekhmet. Old Sake would have had a different idea in mind if he knew about the pact. In fact, he did know about the pact, he wasn't deaf after all. He heard it the same way everyone else did, when she roared it. Though he had a few follow-up questions, let me tell you. Who is the Anointed One? Why did she think to command the wilds? What was different about her? Something had changed that was imperceptible, unperceivable to Sake, but was the mark of Bastet's godhead, matron of mercies, had fixed in her some quality or certainty that he'd not seen in their Ian's marriage. He hated the change meant opportunities for his enemies. In him awoke a great bloodlust for the being, whatever it was, that she kept secret from him. And so her godhead grew, and she became the matron of secrets. I'll tear the wilds apart if I have to. I'll fill this sickening oasis with guts, and blood for garnish, and organs for arters. I'll soak this desert red, that wild jungles will erupt from the swamp. He roared, fur on end, her snapping back if he got uncomfortably close. I don't need you, woman, these wilds are mine. And for the first night ever, they were alone and separated. The boy ran away as far as his legs would take him and onwards farther still, his lungs stung, his eyes stung from his brow sweat, he moved like jelly, knowing that every droplet would bring Sekhmet right to him. But he knew too that old Sake was a lazy sort, and while indomitable when full of fury, he didn't do distances well. He set off through the known wilds to their very edges, across all terrains that the great emerald cat had tamed. To the very edge of it all. Sake was already there. Child prince, anointed of my beloved, you thought I would not find you. Sake sat, eyes fixed on his prize, I knew to come here, as did you. Tell me, how did we both end up here? The boy replied, through his heaving breaths, flopped down on the little bits of grass at the end of the artist's landscape, the last dregs of green watercolor before there is only page, there's nowhere else to. There's nowhere else to go, exactly. That's right. Oh. No wonder Bastet chose you, you're not half stupid, are you, ape? Sake asked rhetorically. My wife, she got your hopes up perhaps, that you'd run off and live in secret, evading me, perhaps overcoming me. He scoffed, then continued, but now I must dash them, for you see, little ape, I run this place, and I'm going to eat you. The boy quivered in his bladder, absolutely terrified. To be torn apart by this feline killer, probably suffocated. Neck crushed, and he'll gobble everything from brains to backside. And he was only young. But then what was life in these wilds beyond if not someday falling prey to old Sake? What kind of game is that? The boy stood up now, face straight with resolve, go on then, you old asshole, kill me then. I fucking hate this place anyway, and you're responsible for it all, aren't you? So you're an awful bastard as well as an old asshole. So you know what? You can just go fuck yourself. He screamed at the top of his weary lungs, wet tears streaming down his red, then purple cheeks, croaking as he went on swearing the worst string of expletives the great cat had ever heard. At the end of it all, he heaved and fell back to the ground, awaiting his demise, but instead heard the cat rolling in the sand in hysterics. Jesus Christ! Where did you get a filthy mouth like that from, you little arsewipe? Such a train of abuse! You cheeky wee fucker you! He laughed on, bowled over by the whole act. The boy started to chuckle too, still terrified of what was to come. Sake composed himself after a solid 2 minutes or so laughing at that one, Then he spoke now in a more conciliatory, almost legal manner to the boy. "Oh, that was entertaining indeed. Boy, I think I shall play along with my darling Bastet and her games this one time." His godhead grew, and he became master of games. "You know very well that my wife cannot command me, and as long as you dwell in the wilds beyond, I will eat you. But you do perhaps have another choice, my foul-mouthed friend. You could venture into the unknown beyond the wilds." "I will not go there. I have conquered my domain now and am satisfied. We predators do not seek more than we need, correct?" he posited, to which the child nodded, listening intently to the great cat's proposal. "I give you this choice then, boy, that you go to the unknown beyond and find what fate's design lead you to, or you stay here and I gobble you up. Consider that though your fate is certain here, there's no telling what horrors lie beyond the threshold of the wilds. It's up to you." The boy already knew the answer. He would choose life. But what lay beyond the beyond? What would he find where even predators fear to tread? He considered all of these things in a few moments' silence, as Sake awaited the answer he knew was coming. "I will go," the boy responded to Sake, who closed his eyes and acquiesced. "Such a shame, I bet you would have been delicious too." In the unknown beyond, the young boy wandered until he was a young man, having many adventures and meeting many beasts and friends along the way. He still seemed to have some immunity from predators, blessed as he was by the power of Bastet and Sekhmet. One evening, on a road that seemed to split into 1,000,000 or more fibers, he found the cave of the Fates, wherein 1,000 gold and silver spindles wove the tapestry that unfolded into the known. He stood in secret, crept around the cave entrance, and watched what happened inside. 3 grannies sat around a fire, telling stories to one another and knitting as they spoke, the threads streaming to uncountable spinning wheels and looms, weaving all together majestically, machines spinning their jabbering into the fabric of creation. He looked on in wonder, and even set up a camp nearby, where he watched them knit and crochet as they spoke of legends, seas, fishermen, and it all materialized in the tapestry that then came to life, and then later unraveled, on and on out the mouth of the caves and into the unknown beyond. He understood then in his witness to this marvel, that all creation is linked and spun from the same threads. Threads the machines could further weave and manufacture. But why not he? The fabric was there, he'd touched it. He analyzed the machines, careful not to arouse attention, though they seemed to be alone bar the occasional malfunction where the thread got stuck in machine, whereupon a great black headless monstrosity, with 700 eyes all swirling around its absent head, and carrying a scythe, would materialize from the shadows, and slice the thread short, killing it and eating the fabric it was woven with. The boy knew he did not want to meet the hecatoncheir face to face, so he kept to the shadows like a shy dormouse. It was at that moment of eureka that he grasped how the machines manipulated the thread, being much, much thinner than the needles used by the grannies to knit their fables. He reckoned he could fashion something similar in his workshop outside, and use the string to weave tapestries of his own. But there was an obstacle. The machines used string made from thin strands of the thicker wool used by the grannies to knit the fates, and all the supplies of such seemed to sit in baskets at their feet, by the fireplace. The boy went to his camp and forged a needle sharp enough to weave the strings that thread fate together, but he was conscious that if he pricked himself, he might unravel. So he forged a thimble too, that fit anywhere, and would protect from any unintended pricks. One day while doing some more reconnaissance, a voice came out across the cave, a low voice but somehow audible over the racket of all the machines together, as the 3 grannies spoke out in unison, "Come here, into the fire's warmth, little boy.